Hey there. Welcome back to Yahar Ghul. Now that we have completed the DLC and discussed the story of Bloodborne in full, which I certainly hope you watched at the end of the last episode, it's finally time for us to spoil this Mensis ritual, find the source of the beast outbreak, and stop it so that we can be released from our contract. Starting with more secret delving. My favorite. And welcome back to the lecture building. It took us half the video game, but we finally reached the second floor. To be honest, it probably would have been faster to use the stairs, but I guess at this point Jill would rather use interdimensional travel as her method of exploring the world that we have found ourselves in. Yes, the second floor of the lecture building has another exit into another world. And a fun revelation, I suppose, is that the lecture building exists as a little pocket dimension, a transport between two very different factions in the Bloodborne world, either by accident or through unscrupulous Cthulhu-related dickery. At this point, it's kinda hard to tell the difference, isn't it? Either way, things here in the lecture hall are much as we left them. We've still got our stable of weapons. We've still got the blobby college students fresh from their latest party. And Patches is around here somewhere, even though we knocked him off the wall with a pebble. But I don't want to talk to Patches. He'll do the same thing he does in every Souls game. He apologizes for, being a jerk, and he begs your forgiveness so that you don't kill him. Except this time he's an arachnid. And as we all know very well by this point, not a big fan of those around here. So we'll just let Sleeping Patches lie, and instead we'll explore the rest of the place. He doesn't have much to say, really. He explains his motivations, I suppose, for abducting us into the world of the amygdalas. Worshipping the gods and explaining his reasoning for why he believes they should be worshipped. But he's wrong. If there's one thing we've learned so far, it's that you absolutely should not worship Cthulhus. I think the life lesson that we can take from Bloodborne is that if you happen to encounter forbidden knowledge in the wild, maybe do yourself a favor and just, leave it be. Some stones are better left unturned. There's also this guy over here on the right. He's a unique-ish, I think he's unique, church hunter giant guy. I don't know what he's doing here, but he's very upset at our presence. I also don't know why his hands are on fire, but he's got a cool, unique moveset. I don't know where else these guys appear in the game. I don't think they do. I think this might be the only one. But, hitting him in his knee bones makes him kind of an easy target for a while. But he's fun. He's a fun, unique-ish enemy. There are some more notes to pick up here in the lecture hall. Some more doors to explore. But maybe we'll do that later, because there's one more plot reveal I want to get out of the way before I really jam your head full of insight. Boy, it feels like we were just here, doesn't it? Feels like just the other day we were exploring the Nightmare Plane for secrets that mankind was best left hidden, and you know all that rigmarole at this point. But something that may come as a surprise to you is that we've been here before. Those of you with keen eyes may recognize where we are right now, or at least recognize that big building, because some time ago, when we were exploring our patches-induced nightmare, I mentioned it. Well, I guess I'll just spoil it. The Nightmare of Mensis is off in the distance. On our first visit to the Nightmare Plane, where we fought the amygdalas, dealt with the poison, and got another chalice that really I didn't want, but I guess I'll take it anyway. Silver beasts are back, and this time they explode into worms, because that's great. That's just great. I love it. This is the grossest video game. The worms are kind of annoying. I'm glad we were able to take the Beast Hunter safe out of the nightmare so that we can use it in the real world. Although, now I suppose we are back in the nightmare. So really, we've gone in a big circle today, haven't we? Oh well. It's time for Bloodborne to start dumping bloodstone chunks on us en masse, because we're getting to the end of the game. Believe it or not, the Nightmare of Mensis is our final destination. And as soon as we step out into the open, it's gonna let us know. If you look in certain directions, you can actually see our original visit to the nightmare. You remember the brain-shaped rock where the amygdala was, and we fought the boss, and I mentioned how it looked like a brain? You can see that off in the distance from on high. Maybe I'll try to get a look at it a little later. But unfortunately, we're going to have to run from cover to cover here, because whatever is up there in that tower, it causes an infinite frenzy burst. So, we've packed our sedatives in our lunchbox, and we're going to try to fight these silver beasts from behind the rocks, while they take damage from the, you know, from having their brains jammed full of insight and horror and terror and pain. Pain that is so strong now at this point in the game that it manifests as physical spikes exploding out of your head. A thing that's completely normal. Totally and completely normal. The Nightmare of Mensis is where Bloodborne's damage starts to get a little bit out of control. Enemies here are very strong. And you might notice that we died like 10 feet away from the lantern. Well, unfortunately, there's not much you can do about that. You just kind of gotta either make a break for it and not fight anything along the way, or try to take enemies one at a time in big open spaces. But you see, that's the challenge of the Nightmare of Mensis. There are no big open spaces that are safe. I think Bloodborne ends on a very strong note, to be honest. We're not done yet. I mean, we've still got a ways to go before we're truly finished exploring the depths of our worst nightmares. Me specifically in this episode, as we'll discuss in just a minute. But, I mean, it's a good escalation of the things that we've known and seen so far, that's for sure. And who knows, while we're here, maybe we'll finally find out what that whole Mensis ritual thing was all about. You know, the whole stop the Mensis ritual, lest the nightmare continue forever and all that stuff. The harrowing cry of the nightmare newborn. Yeah, we haven't heard about all that stuff in a while because we've been exploring the DLC. So, let's keep an eye out for nightmare newborns. I know I'm certainly going to be having some newborn nightmares after we are finished exploring this horrible place. So you don't actually have to really hide from that ominous glowy up there. You can hang out in the open for a while. Unlike the winter lanterns, which apply a static amount of frenzy on sight, the mysterious light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, only applies frenzy when you're in sight of it. Heh. In sight. Get it? There it is. It's right over there. So how about that? Even here at the end of Bloodborne, we can still see places we've already been. Vistas and Souls games. Hey. But yeah, things are really falling apart here in the Nightmare. As if the place wasn't rocky and bottomless pity enough already. Now it's rocky, bottomless pity, and these guys do almost all of my health in one or two slaps. You know, maybe like 1.1 slaps. Don't underestimate these boulder-throwing giants. Because if you do, you may end up like me, incredibly frustrated. It's best to just ignore them and go about your business, to be honest. Because nowhere is Bloodborne's escalating damage problem more prevalent than these assholes. Like I said, this is where it starts to spiral out of control a little bit. And on the one hand, it's increasing enemy damage tenfold is a good way to make your game more difficult. But is it a fun way? No, not really. However, I guess I can't fault them, because there's really only a limited amount of things that they can do at this point, now that the player has supposedly mastered the mechanics. But that doesn't make me any happier about getting one-shot by a boulder from off-screen. A word of forewarning to you. If you are like me, and live in fear of giant spiders, fantasy or not, you're going to want to skip to this timestamp. Because coming up here is a real dick move by From Software. We're going to make our way inside. And we're going to find things a little bit more, say, webby than they were on the outside. You're finally going to get to see the spiders that I was complaining about, as I shield my own eyes from the screen so that I don't have to look at them. Because these things are fucking horrible. They're huge. They're room-sized, screaming spiders that are they're just real spiders. This is what bothers me about the lack of creativity that has been demonstrated when you include spiders in a video game. There's nothing creative about them. They're just lame. It sucks when a video game developer or even like a movie or a movie effects artist or something takes a spider-like creature, an arachnid-like creature, and just copies it and pastes it wholesale into a form of media. It's lame. It sucks. It's not creative. It's not good. It preys on the fears of people like me as a cheap scare to say, hey, you know how you have a real-life phobia? Well, an easy way to make you afraid of the entities in this video game is to tap into that fear. And tapping into fears like existential dread, fear of the unknown, fear of the dark, fear of lurking in the shadows, that's one thing. But preying on a real phobia by implementing, oh, I don't know, these horrible creatures, it's too far. It's too much. It's unfair to people like me. And if you see my whining about spiders in video games, similar to the ominous baby cry we just heard, well, I don't know what to tell you. It's just not fair. I really, honestly believe that. It's just not fair. And unfortunately, the spiders have a very long leash, so they will follow you all the way to this elevator. And so, these denizens, servants, trapped in the Nightmare of Mensis, as we now are, they get to deal with the spiders while I run away. And hey, if you clicked on that timestamp, don't worry, there are no more spiders for the rest of the playthrough. I promise. I made sure of that. Instead, we get to face crow dogs and dog crows. I'll let you decide which one is which. With that blemish aside, the Nightmare of Mensis is one of my favorite areas in the game. It's got one of my favorite loopbacks, too. Down here, at the bottom of this elevator, is one of the only lanterns in this area. And most of the loopbacks in the Nightmare of Mensis lead right here to this little landing, which is pretty cool. It's pretty cool that they designed the area with verticality in mind. That's one thing I like about Bloodborne, is that they include a lot of verticality in the area design. It's one of the reasons that I feel like the Chalice dungeons kind of suffer a little bit, is because there's so much traveling up and down and up ladders and down elevators and stairs and winding buildings. And yet the Chalice dungeons are pretty much completely flat. The execution leaves a little bit to be desired. But the Nightmare of Mensis, in my opinion, is a strong example of how a more linear level design has really helped Bloodborne become focused on delivering an experience to the player. You know, there's not much wandering around that you can do. There's side paths that you can explore, you know, little branches and stuff, hidden things for you to find, as in all Souls game areas. But I feel like the Nightmare of Mensis is a strong example of how sometimes linearity in a game like this isn't a bad thing. You walk into a room, and you tackle the challenge the developers have planned for you in whatever way you have come to know across your 1,000-hour playthrough of Bloodborne at this point. And my way, specifically, is beating up anything that bothers to challenge me with my sharp weapons. I just love how it feels so raw. It feels so foreign. It really is a nightmare at this point. Nightmares are all that's left. And if we ever want to see the sunrise again, I have a feeling that we're going to have to find the source of these nightmares and snuff it out. And maybe the source of that crying, too. And it's deathly silent here, too. This is another area where all you can really hear is the whooshing of the wind. We've pretty much exhausted all life from the Bloodborne world at this point. All that's really left are specters from the past, cursed creatures, and horrors from another dimension. And none of that bodes well to me, to be honest.
Cause, or some say cosm. Do you hear our prayers? No, we shall not abandon the dream. No one can catch us. No one can stop us now.
I beg to differ. Mikolash, host of the Nightmare, is the host of the Nightmare. At the beginning of this episode, we interacted with a mummified corpse in the middle of a bunch of other corpses wearing these weird cages on their heads. And much like our friend Gehrman, someone had to host the extension of the Nightmare plane that then became real and all that stuff, and, well, I guess our pal Mikolash ended up being the host's choice, so to speak. This is fun, boss. I like it. You get to chase Mikolash around like you're running through a lunatic asylum or something, and to be honest, at this point, that's really what it feels like. What we're trying to do is corral him at a dead end so that we can fight him mano a mano. But it's pretty difficult, as you can see. Mikolash himself is pretty weak. He's not even trying to fight us right now. He's just leading us through the garden path. But I love this guy. This guy is a really weird character. And, I'm very excited to hear his voice acting, because he goes all in on it, let's say. I love it. I love that whoever ended up being selected as the progenitor of the plane of the nightmare world that we now inhabit, the Nightmare of Mensis, the Mensis College sucked into an alternate dimension, given real form, ended up being this guy. This guy. It's just this random dude. I don't even know if Mikolash is important. I think he really might just be another collegiate. But he's about to be another dead collegiate. Although, you don't want to underestimate Mikolash, to be honest. His little dummies here, they do a lot of damage, but Mikolash has access to the Augur of Ebrietas, which means he can parry you. However, outside of that, all he's really got to his name is sweet kung fu. So while he attempts to do his sweet kung fu on us, let's kick his ass. I guess our reward for defeating him so easily is stellar voice acting.
Oh, majestic! A hunter is a hunter, even in a dream. But alas, not too fast. The nightmare swirls and churns unending.
Yes, it does. And you're going to want to pay attention to his rambling here. Because that thing he said about Kaz, that's kind of important. Well, kind of important. Take it or leave it, really. But, madman though he may be, perhaps Mikolash knows what he's talking about somewhat. Also, he does that. Bark at the moon. Bark at the moon, Mikolash. It's all there really is left to do. We've heard so much about the moon at this point. The full moon, the night of the hunt. There he is. Come here. Okay, well, I don't think I can follow him that way. God. I just love this nightmarish chanting. It's so good. It's so good. Oh. Come here! We landed in the room that we want him to end in, so now we just need to get him in there and lock the door behind us. I just love that the music just keeps escalating and escalating until it's just this choir of insane chanting as we chase this madman, this random madman, who he may not even have importance beyond being the host of the nightmare, through these never-ending halls of bookshelves and arcane knowledge, and he jumps through mirrors to teleport, and it's all gone crazy at this point. It's all gone to pot. We just gotta get him in this room, and then we can end this. Without Mikolash, the nightmare will persist. Nothing we can do. It's like he said, nothing can stop the Mensis scholars now. Whatever happened with the Mensis ritual, whatever the outcome was, it happened a long, long time ago. And yet, it only happened very recently. Don't think about it too hard. It's over, but we can still exact revenge. I certainly feel like I'm going crazy. And I hope you do too. It's been a long journey, hasn't it? Just finding the guy is part of the problem. Where could he have even gone at this point? Spoilers. He was following us around. But we're almost there. We're almost done. We've just got to get him locked in that room. Go that way! Yeah! Well, I was kind of hoping that the door would close with me on the opposite side. Okay, fine. I know how to get in this room. We just gotta drop down into it from the ceiling and then hope that we're not trapped in there forever after we kill this douchebag. Although, is he really a douchebag? Can you say that insane people are douchebags? Only now does he realize that it's all up there in the stars. Oh. If you were a tarot card, you'd be the fool. So Mikolash will now try to use that Call from Beyond spell. And it's very effective on your torso and head and limbs and extremities and organs and the rest of you. So, you know, if you ever happen to fight Mikolash, just encounter him on the street. Try not to let him back off, because he'll do that. I've had enough of you, Mikolash. You hear that? That's right. Neither do I. It's the sweet, sweet sound of silence. We have silenced the host of the nightmare, and as I mentioned, the nightmare still persists. A bit of a pointless gesture, taking out Mikolash, but it made me feel good inside. Because, as we're going to find out, these Mensis scholars may have inadvertently started a chain of events that caused a lot of the destruction that we've been seeing in Yharnam. Next time, we're going to finally find out what the Mensis ritual was all about, and silence the harrowing cry of the Nightmare Newborn.